It started like one of those evenings where everything that could go wrong absolutely did. The smoke alarm was screaming louder than my mother-in-law at Thanksgiving, and I was standing in the middle of my kitchen barefoot, holding a frying pan that looked like it had survived a war zone. Black smoke curled up from what used to be chicken Alfredo, now reincarnated as something closer to volcanic ash. "Oh my God," I muttered, waving a dish towel like it was going to help. "It's fine, it's totally fine, just a little crispy." "Crispy?" I heard his voice before I saw him. "Ethan, my husband. The man who could fix a broken car engine in 5 minutes but would lose his mind if his dinner wasn't perfect." He came rushing down the hallway, eyes wide, tie half loosened from work. "Are you trying to burn the house down, or is this some kind of art project?" I froze. "Okay, first of all, I was following the recipe." "Recipe?" he interrupted, coughing as he fanned the smoke. "What recipe starts with set pan on fire?" I bit my lip, trying not to laugh. "The experimental kind?" He gave me that look, the one that said he was 2 seconds away from losing it. "Sophie, this is the 3rd time this week." "Third. I work all day, I come home starving, and you?" He gestured toward the counter, where something that vaguely resembled garlic bread was now solid rock. "You serve this, okay, yeah." He had a point, I sighed, dropping the towel. "I was trying, Ethan. You said you liked homemade meals, remember? You said you missed real food. I meant food that doesn't require a fire extinguisher." And that's when it happened. His voice broke, just a little. He wasn't yelling anymore, not exactly. It was frustration tangled up with exhaustion. He leaned against the counter, running a hand through his hair. "I had such a rough day, Soph. My boss chewed me out for something I didn't even do. I barely ate lunch. I just wanted to come home and have dinner with you." Something normal, that quiet part of his voice, yeah, that's the one that always got me. I wanted to be mad, but instead, I just looked at him. He looked so tired, so done with everything. And suddenly, the burnt dinner didn't seem like the real problem. I laughed a little, breaking the tension. "Well, if it makes you feel better, dinner's definitely not normal." He stared at me for a second, then cracked the tiniest smile. "Yeah, no kidding, there it was. The crack in the storm." I crossed my arms, pretending to be offended. "You know, I could have just ordered takeout like a normal person, but no, you said, let's save money. Let's eat healthy. So here we are, saving money by ruining cookware." He chuckled softly, shaking his head. "You're impossible, and you're dramatic." I shot back. "It's just a little smoke. People pay for this kind of char at fancy restaurants." Ethan actually laughed then. And for a second, it felt like everything was okay again. But then, he looked at the burnt mess on the stove and sighed. "You really tried, huh?" I nodded, shrugging. "I even played an instructional video. The lady made it look so easy." "I think she lied." He ran his thumb over the counter, looking guilty now. "I shouldn't have yelled. I'm just tired. Work's been insane lately. I shouldn't take it out on you." I blinked. "Wait, did you just apologize?" He groaned. "Don't make it weird." No, I'm framing this moment," I teased. "You apologizing. This is going in the scrapbook." He laughed, but I could see the guilt still sitting in his eyes. "I really am sorry, Soph. You don't deserve me being a jerk over dinner." For a second, I thought he was gonna brush it off and leave. But instead, he stepped forward, wrapped his arms around me, and just held me. That's when I felt it, his chest shaking. At first, I thought he was laughing again. But then I realized, he wasn't. He was crying. "Ethan?" I whispered, pulling back just enough to see his face. He tried to smile through it, but his eyes were glassy. "I don't even know why I'm crying. God, I'm such an idiot." My heart just melted. "You're not an idiot, you're human." He shook his head. "No, I've been so focused on work and bills and everything else that I've been treating you like one more thing on my to-do list. And you're here trying to make things nice, and I just..." His voice broke again. "I feel like I'm failing at everything." I cupped his face. "Hey, look at me. You're not failing. You're just tired. And maybe a little hangry." He gave a wet laugh at that, wiping his face. "You think I know. You cry every time you're hungry. Do not, do too." We both laughed again. The kind of laugh that's half relief, half disbelief. The smoke had cleared by then. The kitchen looked like a disaster zone, but suddenly it didn't matter. Ethan took a deep breath. "Okay, new plan. Let's just start over together." I raised a brow. "You mean cook together? Because I'm pretty sure we'd burn the whole house down." He smiled, picking up a spatula. "Maybe, but at least we'll burn it together." And that's how our weird little dinner disaster turned into the first real conversation we'd had in weeks. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even edible. But for the first time that night, it felt like home. Okay, Ethan said, looking around our wrecked kitchen like a general surveying a battlefield. "We're gonna need a strategy." I was still standing there with a wooden spoon, covered in flour and guilt. Step 1, open a window before we both pass out. He laughed and went to crack the window. The cool evening air swept in, carrying the faint sound of crickets and the neighbor's dog barking at nothing. The smoke started to clear, revealing the extent of the destruction: one charred pan, a melted spatula, and a kitchen towel that looked like it had survived a small explosion. Wow, Ethan said. You really went to war out here. Yeah, and dinner lost, he smirked. So what's the plan? Pizza, I hesitated. No way, we're cooking. You said start over together, remember? You're not getting out of this, he looked horrified. Sophie, I can't cook. I literally burned cereal in college. I raised an eyebrow. Burned cereal? How is that even possible? Don't ask, he said quickly. It involved a microwave and poor life choices. I laughed, leaning against the counter. Perfect. We're both disasters. Let's make something simple. Like scrambled eggs, Ethan frowned. For dinner? Yeah, breakfast for dinner is a thing. Very trendy. Very Pinterest, he sighed dramatically. Fine, but if I end up on fire, you're calling 911. Deal, we got started. Or at least, we tried to. I cracked the first egg perfectly, smooth, clean, no shell bits. Ethan, on the other hand, gripped his egg like it owed him money. He slammed it on the counter and it exploded. Half the shell fell into the bowl, half onto his shirt. Nice, I teased. We're making crunchy eggs now? He gave me a look. It adds texture. We both burst out laughing, somehow, amidst the chaos, the broken shells. The butter sizzling too fast, Ethan reading the recipe upside down, something shifted. It wasn't about dinner anymore. It was about us. He looked over at me while stirring the pan very aggressively, for some reason. You know, I missed this, I blinked. Missed what? Making a mess? He chuckled. No, us, you and me, just being stupid together, laughing, not rushing somewhere. Not fighting about bills or laundry or who left the milk out. I paused, spatula midair. Yeah, me too, for a second. The kitchen went quiet except for the faint sizzling of eggs and the hum of the fridge. It hit me then, how distant we'd been lately. We used to do everything together: grocery shopping, late night movies, road trips where we'd sing off-key just to annoy each other. But lately, it had been all work, exhaustion, and quick dinners eaten in silence. You know what I think? I said softly. What? I think we both forgot we're on the same team. He looked at me, eyes softening. Yeah, maybe we did. I smiled. Well, team captain, pass me the salt. He handed it over with a grin. Yes, chef, we kept cooking, joking around, occasionally bumping elbows like it was some clumsy dance. When the eggs were finally done, slightly overcooked but still edible, we sat down at the counter with mismatched plates and 2 glasses of orange juice. Bon appetit, Ethan said, raising his fork like it was fine dining. Don't make fun. This is art. We both took a bite and froze. Okay, I said, swallowing carefully. It's not terrible, he laughed. That's high praise coming from you. Excuse me, I'm the one who made this masterpiece. Correction, we made this together, and there it was again, that warmth. That tiny, unspoken thing that reminded me why I fell in love with him in the first place. He reached across the counter and brushed a bit of flour from my cheek. You've got something right here, I grinned. Oh yeah, you sure it's not my natural glow? He smiled back, but his eyes looked a little sad. I'm sorry for earlier. For yelling. You didn't deserve that. I know you didn't mean it, I said quietly. But it still hurt, he nodded slowly. I know, I've been under so much pressure at work, and I keep snapping at you. It's like I walk through that door and all the stress spills out. You're just the one standing there when it happens. That stung, not because he said it, but because it was true. I took a deep breath. You don't have to be perfect all the time, Ethan. You can be tired, angry, even scared. Just don't shut me out. Don't make me the enemy when all I want is to be on your side. He stared at me for a moment. And then he smiled, that small, tired, grateful smile. You really are something, you know that? Something good or something annoying? He laughed softly. Both, always both. We sat there, finishing our uneven eggs in comfortable silence. It wasn't romantic in a movie kind of way, no dramatic music, no candlelight. Just 2 people, messy and real, trying to figure it out. When we were done, Ethan stood up, stretching. You know, this might be the best dinner I've had in weeks. I raised an eyebrow. You're kidding. Nope, he said with a grin. It's not about the food. It's about the company. My heart did a weird little flip. Smooth years of practice, he leaned in, kissed my forehead and whispered, I love you. So for a moment, I didn't even care about the burnt pans still soaking in the sink or the sticky floor under my bare feet. All I cared about was that maybe, just maybe, we were finding our way back to each other. Love you too, Ethan, I whispered. Now help me clean before this egg cements to the counter, he groaned. You just ruined the moment. Welcome to marriage, I said, laughing. And for the first time in a long time, Our laughter filled the house again, light, clumsy, and perfectly ours. Asterisk by the time we finished cleaning up the kitchen, it looked like a cooking show gone wrong. The counters were wiped down, but there were suspicious streaks of egg on the cabinet doors, and somehow flour had made its way to the ceiling fan. Remind me, Ethan said, staring up at it. How does flour even get there? I smirked. It's part of my new interior design concept. Modern chaos, he laughed, tossing the sponge into the sink. Well, congratulations, you've nailed it. It felt good just hearing him laugh again. No tension, no short tempers. Just us, being us. We moved to the couch afterward, both too tired to pretend we had our lives together. I flopped down dramatically, limbs everywhere. I'm officially never cooking again, Ethan grinned. Oh no, you can't quit now. You're the most entertaining chef I've ever seen. Fire, smoke, near-death experiences. It's like dinner and a show. Haha, keep talking. And next time, I'll accidentally salt your coffee. His eyebrows shot up. You wouldn't. Try me. He chuckled and sank into the couch beside me, his hand brushing mine. That small touch sent a soft warmth through me. It had been weeks since he'd even held my hand without rushing somewhere or checking his phone. For a minute, neither of us said anything. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. Then Ethan sighed. You know, I've been a total jerk lately. I turned to face him. You said that already, yeah, but saying it once doesn't make it less true. He rubbed the back of his neck, staring at the floor. I've been so stressed about work that I turned into someone I don't even like. I thought if I could just control everything, work, money, meals, even you, it'd make life easier. But it didn't. It just made me angry all the time. I felt my chest tighten. He sounded so small, so honest. Ethan, I said gently, you don't have to control everything. You just have to let me in. You know I'm not perfect either. I burn dinner. I forget to pay the water bill. I leave the laundry in the washer until it smells like wet socks, but I'm trying. I'm here. With you. He finally looked up, his blue eyes glassy under the soft living room light. You always make it sound so simple. I smiled softly. Because love is simple. We just make it complicated. He nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. God, you're way better at this whole emotional wisdom thing than I am. Yeah, well, I teased. Somebody has to balance out your inner grumpy old man. He laughed, leaning back into the couch. Fair point. Then, as if remembering something, he turned to me with a sly grin. So, salt in my coffee, huh? Oh, it's happening, I said with mock seriousness. One day, when you least expect it, he smirked. Good luck. I'm untouchable. That was the moment I knew. Challenge accepted. A few minutes later, while Ethan went upstairs to change, I got an idea. Not mean, not serious, just a tiny little payback for all those sarcastic comments about my cooking. I went into the kitchen, still slightly smoky from earlier, and grabbed the leftover flour bag. Then I found his favorite mug, the one that said "World's Okayest Husband." I poured a tiny bit of flour inside, just enough to coat the bottom. Then added some cocoa powder and a spoonful of sugar. From the outside, it looked totally normal. Innocent even. He came back down in his hoodie and joggers, looking way too relaxed. You made hot chocolate? Of course, I said sweetly, handing him the mug. A peace offering. He raised an eyebrow but took it anyway. Thanks, babe. He took one big sip then instantly froze. His face twisted like he just licked drywall. What? What is this? He coughed, setting the mug down. I tried to hold it in. I really did. But I burst out laughing. Flour and cocoa. It's my new recipe, artisan chalk. He stared at me, half offended, half amused. You did not just prank me. Oh, I did, I said proudly. Consider it revenge for your cooking commentary. For a second, I thought he was gonna stay mad. But then he started laughing. Full-on, head tilted back laughter that made my heart squeeze. You're insane, he said. Still laughing, only for you. We both sat there, giggling like kids, the tension completely gone. After a while, his laughter softened, and he looked at me with that same warmth I used to see when we first got married. You know, I forgot how funny you are. I smiled, resting my head on his shoulder. And I forgot how much I missed this version of us. He wrapped an arm around me. Me too. For a long moment, we just sat there in silence. The TV flickered quietly in the background, showing some random sitcom neither of us was watching. Ethan kissed the top of my head. I don't say it enough, but I really do appreciate you, Suf. You've been patient with me even when I didn't deserve it. I tilted my head up, meeting his eyes. That's what love is, right? Choosing each other even when everything's messy. He smiled softly. Then I choose you. Mess and all. My heart melted a little at that. Good, I whispered. Because you're stuck with me forever? Forever, he smirked. Even if I keep making fun of your cooking? Especially then, I said, poking his side. Because one day, I'll be so good that you'll regret every word. Ha, we'll see. Oh, we will. And just like that, we were back. Not perfect, not movie perfect, just real. Two flawed people laughing over burnt dinners and bad pranks. Figuring it out one chaotic evening at a time. What I didn't know then was that this silly little night, the smoke, the fight, the laughter would end up changing everything, but that's for later because right now, we were exactly where we needed to be, together. Covered in flour and happier than we'd been in a long time. Asterisk the next morning started off quiet to quiet. I woke up to sunlight spilling through the blinds and the faint smell of coffee drifting in from the kitchen. For a second, I thought maybe I was dreaming. Ethan never made coffee first. Mornings were his sworn enemy. I rolled out of bed, still wrapped in my oversized hoodie, and shuffled into the kitchen. There he was standing by the counter, hair messy, wearing his old gray t-shirt, stirring to mugs. "Wow," I said, rubbing my eyes. "You're awake before 9 a.m. Should I call the news?" He grinned. "I figured I'd surprise you. Peace offering for last night's flower incident," I laughed. "So you're not still mad I poisoned you?" He chuckled. Tempted, but no. I actually thought it was kind of funny. "You've got a dark side, Mrs. Miller." Only when provoked, he slid a mug toward me. "Here, coffee, not poison, promise." I took a sip and sighed dramatically. "Wow, it's actually good. Don't sound so surprised," he said, smirking. I smiled back. It felt easy again, comfortable. Like the version of us before stress, before yelling. Before all the little things started piling up, but just when I thought the day would stay perfect. The universe decided otherwise. At around 10 a.m. Ethan's phone buzzed, once, twice, then again. His jaw tensed with each vibration. He checked the screen, sighed, and muttered, "Of course, what's wrong?" I asked, "Work, my manager wants me on a call in 10 minutes. Apparently, a client's losing it over some critical file error." "Oh, but it's Saturday." "Tell that to my boss," he said bitterly, already heading to grab his laptop. That old tension crept back in like a cold draft seeping under the door. "Ethan," I said softly, "you just worked a 60-hour week. You need a break." He stopped at the doorway. "I can't, Suf. If I don't fix this, they'll be all over me Monday morning." I tried to stay calm. "Then maybe let them. You can't keep burning yourself out." He turned back, his voice sharp now. "You think I want this? You think I like being glued to my laptop all the time?" I blinked. "I didn't say that. Feels like you did," he muttered, opening his computer on the dining table. That old ache returned in my chest, the same one from last night. The one that whispered, "Here we go again." I took a breath. "I'm not trying to fight, Ethan. I looked down. "I miss you." He paused, hands hovering over the keyboard. For a second, I thought he might turn, might say something. But instead, he just muttered, "We'll talk later, okay?" And that was that. The rest of the morning passed in silence. He typed furiously at the table, earbuds in. I tried cleaning, reading, doing anything to distract myself, but the quiet between us was too loud. By noon, I gave up and grabbed my keys. "I'm going out for a bit," I said flatly. He looked up briefly, eyes tired. "Okay, be careful." That was all. No hug, no smile. Just two small words. I didn't even know where I was going, but somehow, my car ended up at the small diner downtown, the one we used to go to on lazy Sundays. When we first got married, it smelled like pancakes and nostalgia. I slid into a booth and ordered coffee, staring out the window at the people passing by. An older couple sat across from me, probably in their 70s. The man was teasing his wife about something and she laughed so hard she snorted. He didn't even flinch, just smiled at her like she hung the moon. That's when it hit me. They looked exactly like what I wanted us to be someday, still teasing, still laughing, still choosing each other even after years of mistakes. I pulled out my phone and stared at our wedding photo. The one where Ethan was smiling so wide he looked like he'd won the lottery. I'd forgotten how bright that smile used to be. It made my chest ache. After sitting there for almost an hour, I decided to head back. Maybe it was time to stop waiting for him to fix everything and start meeting him halfway. When I opened the door to our house, I expected silence. Instead, I heard the clatter of dishes. "Ethan," I called. He turned from the counter, startled. "Hey, you're back." "Yeah," I said carefully. "You done saving the world?" He smiled weakly. "Mostly. The client issue's fixed. And I might owe you an apology." I crossed my arms, but my heart softened instantly. "Oh, really?" He nodded, running a hand through his hair. "You were right. I got so wrapped up in work that I forgot what actually matters. And when you left earlier, I panicked. I thought maybe you'd had enough of me." I blinked, surprised. "Enough of you, Ethan?" "I went for pancakes, not divorce." He laughed, shaking his head. "Still, it made me think. I don't want to lose us over something as stupid as a job." For a second, I didn't say anything. I just walked up, took his face in my hands, and said quietly, "Then stop acting like your job's more important than your life." He nodded slowly. "You're right. I've been chasing deadlines and ignoring the only person who actually makes any of it worth it. There it was, the truth, raw and simple. I missed you, he said softly, and just like that, all the walls between us crumbled. He pulled me in, arms wrapping tight around my waist, and I sank against his chest. The smell of coffee and detergent, the warmth of his skin, it felt like home again. I'm sorry, he murmured against my hair. I'm gonna do better, you'd better, I teased, smiling against his shirt. Or next time, it won't be flour in your mug, he laughed. You're terrifying, thank you, it's part of my charm. We stood there in the kitchen for what felt like forever, just holding each other, letting everything else fade away. Sometimes love isn't fireworks or fancy dinners, it's that quiet decision to stay, to try again, to forgive, even when it's hard. When we finally pulled apart, Ethan brushed a strand of hair from my face and said, "You want to go out tonight? No work, no phones, just us." I smiled, like old times. Exactly. Only if you're paying, I teased. He smirked. Always, and for the first time in a long while, I believed him. Ethan showed up in the doorway 10 minutes later, hair damp from a quick shower and wearing that dark blue shirt I'd always loved. Wow, I said, smirking, you clean up fast. What did you do? Just rinse and pray, he grinned. Exactly, efficiency, baby, I laughed, slipping into my denim jacket. Okay, Mr. Efficiency, where are we going? He shrugged. Somewhere that doesn't serve burnt chicken. Funny. Too soon, way too soon, he chuckled, grabbing his keys. Come on, let's go before I say something else stupid. We got into the car, and as we drove through the soft glow of sunset, the city looked calmer than usual. Couples were walking dogs, kids were chasing bubbles in front of a park fountain, and everything just felt still. Ethan reached over and turned on the radio. Some old 80s love song started playing, the kind of cheesy ballad that would have made me roll my eyes a week ago, but tonight, it felt right. Remember this, he said, tapping the steering wheel. I laughed. Oh my God, we danced to this in our kitchen the night before our wedding. You almost dropped me. I did drop you, yeah, but you caught me halfway down. So technically you saved me. He smiled sideways at me. See, I've always got you. That simple line hit deeper than I expected. I didn't say anything, but I smiled, the kind that said I know. He parked outside this small Italian place we used to love when we were dating. It wasn't fancy, dim lights, the smell of garlic bread hanging in the air, a single old man at the piano playing something soft and nostalgic. Wow, I said, looking around. I can't believe this place is still open. Yeah, Ethan said, pulling out my chair for me. Guess some things are worth holding on to. We ordered pasta, wine, and way too much bread. It felt like stepping back in time, back before jobs, bills, and burnt dinners became the background noise of our lives. For a while, it was easy. We talked about stupid things, movies, that one neighbor who keeps mowing his lawn at midnight, my obsession with reality shows. But underneath it all, I could feel something deeper building, something unspoken that needed to come out. When the food arrived, Ethan got quiet. He twirled his fork, eyes fixed on the table. What's wrong? I asked. He hesitated. I've been thinking a lot lately about us, about everything. My stomach tightened, in a good way or a bad way. He looked up, eyes soft. Both, maybe. He took a deep breath. Sophie, I know I've messed up. I know yelling over dinner or shutting you out isn't okay, but I've been scared, not of you, just of failing at work, at marriage, at life. I've been trying so hard to keep everything from falling apart that I forgot the one thing that actually keeps me going. Me, I said softly. He nodded. You, us, the way you still laugh when everything's on fire. The way you always find light in the chaos. You're the reason I want to do better, Soph. And I'm sorry it took me this long to say it. I felt my throat tighten, that kind of ache that's equal parts love and heartbreak. Ethan, I whispered, you don't have to be perfect. I never wanted perfect. I just wanted you, even when you're moody, even when you burn cereal. He laughed through a shaky breath. God, that cereal story's never gonna die, huh? Never, I said, smiling through tears. You're stuck with me forever, remember, forever, he repeated quietly. The piano in the background shifted to a slow song, and before I knew it, Ethan stood up and extended his hand. I frowned. What are you doing? Dance with me? I laughed. Here, there are people watching. Let them, he said, smiling. They'll just think we're crazy in love. I rolled my eyes but stood anyway. Crazy, definitely. He pulled me close, one hand at my waist, the other holding my hand just like he did years ago. Only this time, we didn't need words, for the first time in forever. It felt like the world had stopped spinning just for us. I missed this, I whispered against his shoulder. Me too. After a few moments, he leaned down and said softly, you know, I was terrified that night. When you burned dinner, I pulled back, confused. Terrified? You mean annoyed? No, terrified, he said, smiling sadly, because it made me realize how far apart we'd gotten. I thought maybe I'd already lost you and I didn't know how to fix it. You didn't lose me, I said. Shaking my head, you just forgot where to look, he smiled faintly. Guess I'm finding my way back now. You are. We kept dancing until the song ended, until the waiter came over with the check and a knowing grin. Cute couple, he said. You two celebrating something? Ethan looked at me, then back at the waiter. Yeah, he said softly, a second chance. I felt my heart swell on the drive home. We didn't talk much, we didn't need to. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore, it was peaceful. Full of the kind of understanding that only comes when two people finally stop fighting to be right and start fighting to stay together. When we got home, I kicked off my heels, turned to Ethan and smiled. You know what? I think we make a pretty good team after all, he grinned. Even if we're both terrible cooks, especially because of that, he laughed, pulling me into his arms again. You know, if we ever open a restaurant, we could call it the Burnt Spoon. Oh my god, I groaned. That's awful, admit it. It's catchy. I couldn't help laughing. Fine. But only if I get to be head chef. Deal, he said, kissing the top of my head. But only if I get to eat the mistakes. You mean all of them, every single one, and right there, standing in our imperfect little kitchen, surrounded by messy memories and the smell of burnt butter that would probably never go away. I realized something. Love wasn't about perfect meals or perfect people. It was about showing up again and again, laughing, forgiving, rebuilding, even when it's hard. And that night, I knew we were finally doing exactly the ... The next morning felt different. For the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel like a battlefield. The air didn't feel heavy with unspoken words. Instead, sunlight was spilling through the blinds. The faint smell of coffee was drifting through the hall, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear Ethan humming. It wasn't a perfect tune, actually. It was completely off-key, but it was happy. And honestly, that was enough. I rolled out of bed, still in his oversized t-shirt, and padded into the kitchen. Ethan stood at the counter wearing an apron that said "Kiss the cook, he's trying his best," a Christmas gag gift I'd bought him years ago. He glanced up as I walked in. Morning, sleepyhead. I smiled. Morning. What are you doing? Redemption breakfast, he said proudly, motioning to the mess on the counter, flour everywhere, eggshells in places they shouldn't be, and what looked suspiciously like a pancake stuck to the ceiling. Oh my god, Ethan, I said, laughing. Did a hurricane hit our kitchen again? Hey, I'm learning, he said, pretending to look offended. You started this chaos, I'm just continuing the legacy. I smirked. Right, so you're saying I inspired this disaster? Exactly. He flipped a pancake. Somehow, and it landed perfectly on the plate. He looked at me, grinning like a proud kid. See that? Nailed it. I clapped dramatically. Bravo, Chef Ramsay. He gave me a mock bow. Thank you, autographs after breakfast. I sat down at the table, chin in my hand, just watching him. There was something peaceful about that moment, the morning light, the smell of sugar and butter, the sound of him humming again. It hit me that this was what love really looked like, not the picture-perfect Instagram version. Not flowers and fancy dinners, but this, to people laughing over burnt pancakes. Still choosing each other even after the storm. Ethan set the plate down in front of me with a proud smile. Try it. I eyed the pancake suspiciously. If I die, tell my mom I love her. He rolled his eyes. Just eat it, drama queen. I cut a small piece, tasted it, and froze. Well, he asked nervously. It's actually good, really? Yeah, I said, nodding. Like, surprisingly edible. He laughed. Surprisingly edible. I'll take it. I smiled. And before I knew it, tears welled up again, not the painful kind this time, but the kind that comes when you realize something beautiful survived the chaos. Ethan noticed immediately. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing, I said, shaking my head. I didn't think we'd get back here to this. He sat down beside me. Neither did I. But maybe this is what it takes sometimes, burning a few dinners, breaking a few plates, to figure out what really matters. I laughed softly. That sounds like something straight out of a Hallmark movie. Then it must be true. We both laughed and he reached over, brushing a crumb off my cheek. I'm proud of us, you know. Yeah, we could have let one bad night turn into 1,000 more. But instead, we figured it out. Together, I took his hand, squeezing it gently. I think that's what love really is, not about never fighting, but always finding your way back. He nodded slowly, his voice quiet. You always were the smart one. Damn right, I said, smirking. He laughed, standing up and heading for the fridge. So what do you say we do something crazy today? Crazy like what? Let's host a dinner here. Tonight, invite a few friends, prove we can actually cook without burning the place down. My eyes widened. You mean after last time? He shrugged. That mischievous grin spreading across his face. Redemption dinner, round 2, I groaned. You're insane, maybe, but you love it. I couldn't help but laugh. Fine. But if this ends in smoke again, I'm blaming you. Deal, he said, tossing me an apron. Now, Partner, let's make history. The rest of the day turned into a comedy show, flour fights, sauce spills, the blender exploding once, but instead of yelling, we laughed through every single mess. We played music, danced between chopping vegetables, and for the first time in forever, our kitchen felt like a playground instead of a war zone. By the time our friends arrived that evening, the house smelled amazing, no smoke alarms, no disasters. Just warmth, laughter, and the feeling of something healed. Dinner was a success. Everyone joked about our famous burnt chicken story, and Ethan took every tease like a champ. Halfway through the meal, he even stood up, clinking his glass. Okay, so, he said, I just want to make a quick toast. Everyone quieted down. He turned to me, eyes soft but full of light, to my wife, Sophie, who taught me that it's okay to mess up, as long as you don't give up, who burns dinners but never burns bridges, and who makes every disaster taste like love. The room filled with laughter and a few ahs, and my cheeks burned red. I stood up, raising my glass, and to my husband, who yells, cries, and somehow still manages to make pancakes worth eating. Everyone burst out laughing, and Ethan leaned in to kiss my cheek, touche. The rest of the night was filled with laughter, music, and the kind of energy that makes your house feel alive again. When the last guest left and we finally collapsed onto the couch, I looked at him and smiled. You know, I said quietly, if we ever fight again, when he corrected, grinning, fine. When we fight again, promise we'll remember this, he nodded, always. I leaned my head on his shoulder, closing my eyes, good. Outside, the city lights shimmered against the night sky, and in that moment, everything felt perfectly imperfect, exactly how love is supposed to be. Because love isn't about who cooks better, or who wins the argument, it's about who stays, through the smoke, the mess, and the laughter. And as long as we kept choosing each other, I knew we'd be just fine.